My best friend of 20 years slept with my husband of 12 years, got pregnant, and thought I'd forgive them, but what my mother did left me speechless. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. Now, let me take you into this story. I'm Audrey. And I need to tell someone what happened. I need to get this out, or I think it might just eat me alive. My story starts, as I guess many do, feeling like a fairy tale. My husband, Spencer, and I started dating when I was 21 and he was 23. We were together for nearly 2 years before he proposed, and we've been married for 12 years. We built a life. We have 2 beautiful children, our son, Graham, and our little girl, Thea. It felt complete. Especially because I had my best friend, Sabrina, by my side. 20 years. Sabrina and I had been best friends for 20 years. Our mothers grew up together, so we were basically sisters from birth. We shared everything, every secret, every fear, every dream. When I got my first job, she was the first person I called. When she had her heart broken, it was my shoulder she cried on. We were inseparable. We were a unit. When I met Spencer, it felt like my world was clicking into place. He was charming, intense, and had this vulnerability about him that just drew me in. He'd had a tough life, and I think I just wanted to be the one to make it better. He seemed so different from the other guys I had dated, who all seemed so simple. Spencer had layers. He had pain. And to my 21-year-old self, that was incredibly attractive. About a year into our relationship, he took me to meet his mother, Lorraine. I remember being so nervous. I must have changed my outfit 3 times. I finally settled on this nice, conservative blue dress, the one he said made my eyes look bright. Lorraine lived in this small, immaculately clean house where everything was beige. I mean everything. The carpet, the walls, the sofa, the curtains. Even her clothes. It felt like walking into a room with no air, like all the color had been sucked out. Lorraine was a widow. Her husband had passed from a heart attack years ago, and she had raised Spencer all by herself. They were close. Very close. You could say he was a bit of a mama's boy, and he was always desperate for her approval in everything he did. I could see him watching her out of the corner of his eye, waiting for her to smile. She rarely did. I tried so hard to impress her. I smiled until my cheeks hurt. I complimented her beige home. I brought a ridiculously expensive pie from a local bakery, the kind that comes in a fancy box. But the feeling, it just wasn't mutual. She looked at me, really looked at me, with these cold, assessing eyes. She barely touched the pie. She asked me questions, but they felt like an interrogation. So, Audrey, what does your father do exactly? You see, the main reason Lorraine never liked me is because I come from an upper-middle-class family. My parents own multiple businesses. I had a comfortable life, I won't deny it. My parents supported me through college and bought me my first car, a safe, reliable sedan, so I could get to my job on time. But they also instilled in me the value of being independent. They had both come from nothing, and they never let me forget it. Money is a tool, Audrey, my dad always said, not a recliner. I have always worked hard. I got a degree in marketing, and I loved my job. I worked my way up in my field, managing brand partnerships. I was good at it. I funded my own lifestyle, I paid my own bills, and I never asked my parents for a dime after I graduated. I was proud of that. Spencer's life was the opposite. His father was military, seldom home, and passed away early. Lorraine, as I learned later, was a severe alcoholic, and Spencer had to take care of her from a very young age. He told me stories about coming home from middle school to find her passed out, about having to cook his own dinners and make sure the bills got paid. He started working at McDonald's as a teenager, just to have grocery money. He tried college but dropped out because he hated his communications degree. He told me how unhappy he was back then. He eventually found his footing as a freelance writer. He was good at it, surprisingly good. He had a way with words. But through all of it, his mother, Lorraine, would ask him for a monthly allowance. And he always gave it to her, even when I knew it was a strain on his own finances. "She's my mom, Audrey," he'd say, "I'm all she has." How could I argue with that? When our relationship got serious, maybe a year and a half in, I finally told him about my family. About the businesses, the generational wealth. We were out to dinner, at a nice Italian place. I remember I was stirring my pasta, feeling nervous. "Spencer," I started, "there's something I haven't been totally open about." I told him. He didn't believe me at first. He actually laughed. "Yeah, okay. Your dad's a businessman." "I know." "No, Spencer, I'm serious." I told him the name of my family's company. He pulled out his phone, right there at the table. He Googled my family. I saw his face change. The color drained from it. He got quiet, almost angry. He put the phone down and just stared at me. You've been lying to me? This whole time?" "No," I said, reaching for his hand. "No, Spencer, I wasn't lying, I was waiting. It's not about trust. You have no idea how many people in my past, how many guys, only wanted to be with me for my family's money. It's a burden. I just needed to know you were real. That we were real." He seemed to understand, mostly. He calmed down. But after that, every so often, a little comment would slip out. A little taunt. We'd be out to dinner, and I'd offer to pay. "It's my treat," I'd say, and he'd reply, "Well, of course. It's not like you have to check your bank account." It was a little jab, and it stung. Or we'd be talking about work, and I'd mention a tough project. He'd scoff and say, "You'll just never know what it feels like to really work for something, Audrey. To really have to try." It stung. It stung every single time, because it wasn't true. I did work hard. I was proud of my career. But he never saw it. He just saw the safety net beneath me. That should have been my first red flag. But I was 22, and I was in love. And love makes you blind to so many things. The real trouble started when we decided to move in together. I was so excited. I found this great 2-bedroom apartment, bigger than anything either of us had lived in, with a small balcony and a fireplace. I spent a whole weekend painting the living room a soft, calming green. We spent a Saturday hauling boxes up the stairs, music playing, laughing, ordering pizza. It felt so grown up. It felt like the perfect next step. Then, one night, we were sitting on the floor, eating that pizza off the cardboard box, surrounded by half-unpacked crates. He brought it up. So, he started, not looking at me, picking a pepperoni off his slice. About the lease, and the rent. "Yeah," I said, grabbing another slice. "I was thinking we just set up a joint account. We'll both put our bill money in there. 50-50, for all the house stuff. Easiest way, right?" He put his pizza down. His whole body tensed. I could see it. "Audrey, I don't think that's fair." I paused, my hand halfway to my mouth. "What do you mean, not fair?" "It's 50-50ths. That's the definition of fair." "It's not fair," he said, and his voice was getting that edge I was starting to recognize. "It's not fair because you make almost double what I make. And that's not even counting your family. You come from old money. I'm still trying to get my career off the ground, and I have to help my mom. I put my own slice down. Spencer, my family's money is not my money. This is my salary. We're partners. We should be splitting this. Exactly, he said, and he stood up. He started pacing. We're partners. Which means you should support me. You should want to help me. God, is it so much to ask? Or are you just like everyone else, holding your money over my head? That's not fair, Spencer. I said, standing up too. You're turning this on me. I'm not holding anything over your head, I'm just asking for us to be equal partners. Equal, he shouted, and I flinched. He'd never shouted at me like that before. You want to talk about equal? How is it equal that you had your college paid for, and I had to drop out? How is it equal that you got a car for graduation, and I was working at McDonald's? It's not equal, Audrey. And if you really loved me, you wouldn't be trying to make me struggle. I'm not making you struggle. I'm just asking you to pay your half. I'm selfish, he yelled, his face getting red. I'm selfish for being poor? You're the one being selfish. You're being cruel, Audrey. You have all this, and you're going to make me struggle? You're going to watch me drown just to prove a point? You know what, this just proves it. You don't really love me. If you did, this wouldn't even be a question. We argued for an hour. Back and forth. He yelled. He sulked. He guilt-tripped me. He sat on the sofa with his head in his hands and said I was just like his father, who never helped his mom. And finally, I caved. I was so tired. The green walls I had been so proud of suddenly felt like they were closing in. I just wanted the fighting to stop. I wanted him to stop looking at me like I was a monster. Fine, I whispered. My voice was hoarse. Fine, Spencer. I'll cover the rent. But the bills. Utilities, groceries. You have to split those with me. That's the only way. He huffed, like he was the one making a huge concession. But he agreed. Fine. If that's how it has to be. It felt wrong. It felt like I'd lost something. Like a line had been crossed that we could never uncross. But I told myself I was doing it for love. I was being the bigger person. I had to cut back on a lot of my own savings, my personal just-in-case fund, to cover the new, higher rent all by myself. I stopped buying new clothes for work. I packed my lunch every single day. But I was madly in love with him. And the worst part? The absolute worst part? 2 weeks later, I was cleaning our home office and I saw a receipt on his desk. A jewelry store. He had bought his mother, Lorraine, an expensive gold bracelet for her birthday. It cost more than his entire share of the month's utilities. And I just knew, that his monthly allowance to her hadn't stopped for even a second. I pointed it out. I tried to be calm. I really did. Spencer, I said, holding the receipt. I'm really struggling to cover the rent this month. I had to move money from my savings. And I see you bought your mom this beautiful bracelet. I'm just confused. You told me you had no money. He exploded. It was faster this time. Are you serious? You're complaining about money again? Are you going through my desk now? What's next, Audrey? Are you going to check my bank statements? My mother is a single, elderly parent who has nothing. She deserved something nice. She needs that money more than we do. I can't believe you're trying to take food out of my own mother's mouth. I felt so guilty. He had a way of twisting it, of making me feel like the monster. Like I was this rich, greedy dragon, hoarding my gold. So, I stopped bringing it up. I just paid the bills. I just kept quiet. And I told myself this is what love was. Compromise. Sacrifice. Even now, it's hard to look back on the girl I was. How trusting I was. How much I wanted the fairy tale to be real. When Spencer proposed to me, almost a year after we moved in, I was ecstatic. After all the fighting about money, all the tension, this felt like a promise. It felt like a sign that everything was going to be okay. To be honest, looking back, he put the absolute least amount of effort possible into it. I had always dreamed of, I don't know, something special. I'm not high maintenance, I really am not. But maybe Paris, or a quiet beach at sunset, or even just a fancy restaurant where he got down on one knee. Something that was just about us. But Spencer, he thought proposing to me in our backyard was a good idea. On a random Tuesday night. I had just gotten home from work. I was still in my work clothes, a pencil skirt and a blouse, and I was tired. I was taking off my heels when he said, "Hey, can you come out back? I want to show you something." I walked out, and he had strung up some of those cheap, glittery fairy lights. He was standing there, looking so nervous. And he just did it. He said some nice things, I'm sure he did, but I was so taken aback, I barely heard them. To his credit, he did ask my parents for my hand, like a gentleman. My mother, who absolutely adored Spencer, she thought his struggle made him charming and ambitious, she loved his grit, suggested to him that he should get help from my best friend, Sabrina, to plan the proposal. So, he did. He and Sabrina apparently put their heads together, and this was the genius idea they came with. A backyard proposal, with fairy lights he bought on clearance, in front of my entire family and all our friends, who were hiding inside the living room, watching through the glass door. I was taken aback. It felt public and a little cheap. But then I said yes, and he put the ring on my finger, and everyone rushed out, cheering. My mom was crying. Sabrina was right there, beaming, holding up her phone to record. "Oh my God, Audrey," she screamed, tackling me in a hug. "I'm so happy for you. Finally!" Seeing everyone gathered there, celebrating with me, it made me feel better. I pushed the disappointment down. This was my happy day. My friends were here. My family was here. My mother, Sabrina, and Sabrina's mother, Barbara, who was like a second mom to me, were the first to hug me. Lorraine, Spencer's mother, was there too, of course. She gave me a stiff, bony hug and whispered in my ear, "Well, I have high expectations for you as a daughter-in-law. I just hope you do everything in your power to keep my son happy." It wasn't a congratulations. It was a warning. But that night, I didn't care. I was engaged. When Spencer and I started dating, I had, of course, introduced him to Sabrina. They hit it off right away. They had the same sarcastic sense of humor. They ganged up on me, in that fun, playful way. I loved it. I loved that the two most important people in my life were becoming friends. Sabrina didn't just help Spencer plan the proposal. She helped him choose my ring. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I thought it was sweet. She knew my taste better than anyone. Why wouldn't he ask her for help? Looking back. Looking back, it's all so clear. How they would laugh at jokes I didn't get. How, at parties, I'd look for Spencer, and he'd be in a corner, talking to her. Just talking. But it was always them, together. Deep in conversation. If I walked over, the conversation would sort of stop. And they'd both turn to me and smile. "Oh, hey," Sabrina would say. "We were just talking about that stupid movie from college." It all seemed so innocent. I never suspected a thing. She was my sister. My soulmate. We had done everything together. Her mother, Barbara, adored me just like my mother adored Sabrina. We were family. It was just, they were friends. That's all I let myself see. We got married. It was a beautiful wedding, mostly paid for by my parents. And even after marriage, nothing changed. The dynamic we'd set up when we first moved in, it just solidified. It became our life. I continued to pay for everything. I paid for our weekly date nights. I paid for our yearly vacations. I paid the mortgage on the house I bought, with a significant down payment from my own savings that we both lived in. Why? Because Spencer insisted he was saving up money for our future. He was saving his money. I was spending mine. Every time I'd try to bring it up, to talk about our finances, it would turn into a fight. A huge, explosive fight where I was the one who was obsessed with money, and unsupportive, and selfish. So, like before, I stopped bringing it up. It was easier to just pay. It was easier than fighting. Then, I got pregnant with Graham, our first child. It was a difficult pregnancy. From the very beginning, I was sick. Not just morning sickness, I was sick all day. I lost weight in my first trimester. I was constantly dizzy. I'd be in a meeting at work, and I'd have to grip the table to stop the room from spinning. My doctor got worried. Around the 6-month mark, he told me my blood pressure was too high. He was worried about preterm labor. He told me I had to stop working. He said I needed to be on modified bed rest. I was forced to quit my job. It wasn't a choice. I was terrified. But I was also a little relieved. I was so tired. When I told Spencer, he didn't hug me. He didn't ask if I was okay. He sat down hard on the sofa. "Quit," he said, his voice flat. "Quit your job? How are we supposed to live, Audrey? How are we going to afford a child if you're not working?" I just started to cry. I was so sick, so tired, and so scared. And the man who was supposed to protect me, the father of my child, he was looking at me like I was a broken appliance. "My doctor said I have to, Spencer," I wept, holding my belly. "He's worried about the baby." Don't you care about that?" "Of course I care about the baby," he snapped. "I'm just being realistic. We're going to have no money. Your savings won't last forever. What are we supposed to do?" I felt so alone. That night, I called my parents. I told them everything. I told them about the pregnancy complications, about Spencer's reaction, about how I'd been paying for everything for years. My mother sympathized with Spencer. "Well, Audrey, he has a point," she said, her voice practical. "It's a lot of pressure on him. Hundreds of mothers continue to have jobs while pregnant. Are you sure you're not just being a little delicate?" "Delicate?" I whispered. "Mom, the doctor put me on bed rest." "Oh, doctors," she huffed. "They're overly cautious." I felt the air leave my lungs. But then, my dad got on the phone. And my dad was furious. "You put your mother on the line," he said. I heard him say, "Diane, what is wrong with you?" Then he hung up with me. And he immediately called Spencer. I wasn't on that call, but Spencer's face when he came into the bedroom, he was pale. Shaking. My father, as he later told me, had given Spencer a piece of his mind. He told Spencer it was time for him to be a man and step up for his family. He reminded Spencer that while he loved him, his daughter and grandchild came first. And then my dad dropped the bomb. He reminded Spencer about the prenup. Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention that. My dad, being a businessman, had insisted on a prenuptial agreement before we got married. I was embarrassed at the time. I thought it was so unromantic. But I did it. And that prenup stated that what was my family's, and what was mine before the marriage, stayed mine. My inheritance was protected. The house was in my name only. My dad warned Spencer that if he continued to behave this way, if he added 1 more ounce of stress to my high-risk pregnancy, he would personally fly over and pack my bags, and it would be better for us to get a divorce. That single word, divorce, changed everything. Spencer knew. He knew that if I left, he would lose me. He would lose the house, which was in my name. He would lose the expensive car, also in my name. He would lose the lifestyle he'd grown so accustomed to. For the first time ever, Spencer stopped sending his mother her monthly allowance. He started paying all the bills. Every single one. I continued to pay the mortgage, since I had more than enough in savings, but he actually stepped up. He'd bring me water. He'd ask if I was okay. He'd try. But I knew. It wasn't out of love. It was out of fear. And because he stopped sending Lorraine money, she hated me even more. She had been freely sponging off her son, and when that access stopped, she blamed me. Completely. When I finally gave birth to Graham, I was so happy. I was exhausted, but I was so in love with this tiny little person. He was perfect. Everyone visited us in the hospital. My parents, Barbara. Sabrina. Sabrina stayed with me for days. She camped out on that awful, squeaky hospital cot. She held Graham while I slept. She fetched me ice chips. She was my rock. You did it, Aud, she whispered, stroking my hair. He's perfect. You're a mom. Spencer was busy with work. He had a big deadline, he said. He refused to look after me or the baby. He said he was no good in hospitals. He came by, took a picture, and left. Once I was back home, being a new mother, it made me so nervous. I was terrified I'd break him. My dad and Barbara, Sabrina's mom, were amazing. They would come over and help as much as they could. Barbara would just take Graham from my arms and say, "You go shower. You go sleep. I've got this." She was a lifesaver. Lorraine, on the other hand, would do nothing. She would come to visit Graham, sit on my sofa, in my house, and only make negative remarks about me. "You really need to start losing that baby weight, Audrey. It's not healthy. Spencer doesn't want a wife who lets herself go. My goodness, are you going to let him cry like that? You should tend to him as soon as he fusses. You're going to spoil him by picking him up, but you're going to damage him by letting him cry. You just can't win, can you?" Her unsolicited comments were always directed at me. Never once at her son, who didn't lift a single finger to help. After giving birth to Graham, I found myself overwhelmed with this profound sense of exhaustion. It was more than just being tired. It was this crushing loneliness. This fog. I could be in a room full of people, and I'd feel completely, utterly alone. I'd cry for no reason. I'd look at Graham, my beautiful baby boy, and I'd feel nothing. Just empty. I didn't know it at the time, but I was going through postpartum depression. PPD. So many mothers experience it, but we so seldom talk about it. I tried to tell Spencer. I begged him for help. "Spencer, please," I'd cry, holding a screaming Graham at 3 a.m. "Please, can you just take him for 1 hour? Just 1 hour so I can sleep. I feel like I'm breaking. I feel so dark." He'd just roll over, pulling the pillow over his head. "Audrey, he needs his mother. I don't know what to do. You're the mom. It's just your responsibility. Stop being so dramatic." He wouldn't change a single diaper. He wouldn't feed him a single bottle. I was drowning. The weight of my responsibilities, the household tasks, the demands of a newborn, and the PPD. It was suffocating. I was at my lowest point. I remember one afternoon. Graham was about 2 months old. He was in his swing, crying. He had been crying for hours, it felt like. I hadn't showered in 3 days. I was trying to make lunch. Just a simple grilled cheese sandwich. The smoke alarm went off. I had burned it black. The entire pan was smoking. And I slid down the kitchen cabinets and sat on the linoleum floor, sobbing. I couldn't even make a sandwich. I couldn't do one thing right. I was a terrible mother. I was a terrible wife. I was a failure. I decided to open up to my parents about my mental health. I was desperate. My dad was incredible. He was on a plane the next day. He offered to pay for a therapist, a night nurse, anything I needed. My mother refused to believe me. "Oh, Audrey, stop it," she said over the phone, her voice sharp with impatience. "Postpartum depression? That's not a thing. Back in my day, we just called it being tired. You have a beautiful, healthy baby. You need to be strong enough for him. Stop wallowing. It's unattractive." I complained to her about Spencer refusing to help. She actually scolded me. "Audrey, Spencer is the father. He's working hard to pay the bills now, isn't he? That's what your father made him do. So you can't complain. You should be doing a better job as a mother. Stop trying to push your responsibilities onto him." It hurt. It hurt so much that my own parent couldn't see how hard I was struggling. It felt like I was drowning and she was standing on the side of the pool, telling me to just swim better. With my mother's refusal to believe me, Spencer's lack of effort, and my mother-in-law's constant, negative taunts, I stayed in that fog of depression. My only light, my constant support, was Sabrina. She would come over, take one look at me, my unwashed hair, the spit up on my shirt, the dark circles under my eyes, and she would just act. She'd take Graham, change his diaper, and put him in his stroller. "We are going for a walk," she'd declare. And on those walks, I would just fall apart. I told her everything about my marriage, about how lonely I was, about how Spencer wouldn't even touch his own son. About what my mother had said. She would just listen. She'd hold me while I cried on a park bench. She'd get furious on my behalf. "He's a terrible husband, Audrey," she'd say, her voice fierce. "He's a terrible parent. And your mother. I'm so disappointed in her. You don't deserve this. He's a monster." It felt so good to know that, besides my dad, I had Sabrina. I had her support. I clung to that. I clung to her. She was the one person who saw me. A year later, to my absolute shock, I found out I was pregnant again. It was a complete accident. I was on birth control, but I had been so foggy with the PPD, I must have missed some pills. I definitely didn't want another child so soon, not with how things were. I cried for a week. But I decided to trust in God's plan. So, I decided to go along with it. Spencer was furious. That's the only word for it. "You have to abort it," he said, his voice cold. We were in the kitchen. He wouldn't even look at me. "As soon as possible. We can't afford another baby, Audrey. We just can't." It's not a we, Spencer," I said, my voice shaking. "It's you. You can't afford it. I'm the one who's been paying for everything, anyway. This is your fault," he yelled. "You were supposed to be handling the birth control." We had a massive fight. But I held my ground. "No, Spencer. I'm not doing that. I knew then what I had to do. It was time for me to get back to work. I couldn't depend on this man for anything. I contacted my old boss, who was thrilled and happy to have me back. She said she had a promotion in mind for me before I left, and if I came back, she'd fast-track it. I started as a freelancer, working from home, until a permanent, senior position opened up. My second pregnancy, with my daughter Thea, was just as difficult as the first. But I was determined. I had another person to be responsible for. This time, when I went back to work, I made a change. I no longer deposited my entire paycheck into our joint savings account. I was starting to think about my future. About my children's future. Their college fund. My salary was my own again. So, I started to keep 50% of my paycheck in a private account, one he had no access to. Only the other 50% went to the joint account. It was my secret. My escape plan. Once I started earning money again, a significant salary, Spencer became lazier. It was almost immediate. Suddenly, he started to complain every single day about how much he disliked his job. I just hate it, Audrey, he'd whine, rubbing his temples. My boss is an idiot. The work is so boring. I just want to quit. I'd try to talk him out of it. Spencer, you don't have a college degree. You need to stick with this job. It pays well. We have another baby on the way. This would make him furious. He hated being reminded that he was a college dropout. You know what? He said one night. We were in bed. I was trying to read, and he was just fuming. You got to take a break when you were pregnant with Graham. I deserve a break, too. I saw red. I threw my book on the floor. A break? I was not on a break, Spencer. I was sick. I was on bed rest. I was struggling while forming another human being inside of me. That is not a break. How dare you? But it didn't matter. Despite our arguments, Spencer decided to quit his job. We have enough savings, he declared. And now that you're earning good money again, I can rest for a while. I'll figure out my next move. And just like that, he was home. All day. His next move was the sofa. He would spend his entire day in his boxer shorts, playing video games. Yelling into his headset. While I, pregnant and sick, would get up, get Graham ready, drop him at my parents' house, go to work, come home, pick up Graham, make dinner, and clean the house. I'd walk in the door, my feet swollen, my back aching, carrying our son, and Spencer would be in the exact same spot I left him. The floor around him would be littered with soda cans and chip bags. Hey, he'd mumble, not taking his eyes off the screen. Dinner almost ready? I'm starving. This went on for months. I started to grow so tired. So angry. So full of contempt. I was a single parent, in every way that mattered. I finally confronted him. You need to spend your days looking for a new job, Spencer. This is not working. I can't do this alone. I am done. He didn't like that. He didn't like me telling him what to do. So, he started going to his friend's place every day. His friend Russell. Russell was this middle-aged divorced guy whose wife had cheated on him and left him. And it had made him bitter. He was a complete misogynist. He hated every woman on principle. I couldn't stand him. The one time I met him, he kept calling me the old ball and chain. But Spencer started spending more and more time at Russell's apartment, where they would play video games all day, drinking beer. Our arguments got worse. I was so tired of being a single parent to 3 people, Graham, Thea, and my 30-something husband. But I held on. I held on for the sake of my children. Then, the day I went into labor with Thea, Spencer was apparently so busy at Russell's house that he left his phone in the car. I was at home. The contractions started, hard and fast. I called Spencer. Straight to voicemail. I called him again. Voicemail. I sent a text. I'm in labor. Going to the hospital. No reply. I was scared. This was happening so much faster than with Graham. I called my sister, my rock. I called Sabrina. Straight to voicemail. Sabrina, oh my God, I'm in labor, I cried into the phone. Spencer isn't answering. I'm scared. Can you please call me back? I need you. She never called back. In the end, my parents had to take me to the emergency room. My dad was speeding, my mom in the back with me, telling me to breathe. I gave birth to Thea 2 hours later. She was beautiful. She was tiny. And she was here. My husband, he missed her birth. He waltzed into the hospital room 6 hours later. Hey! Sorry. My phone died. Look at her. She's great. I was too tired to be angry. I was just numb. I never once suspected him. Even though these red flags they weren't just flags, they were giant, flashing, neon billboards. And Sabrina? Sabrina was also missing. She came the next day, all apologies, carrying a huge bouquet of flowers. Oh my God, Audrey, I am so sorry, she gushed, hugging me. I was stuck in the worst meeting at work, my boss would not let me leave. My phone was on silent. I feel terrible. She's beautiful. And I believed her. It's okay, I told her. It's totally fine. I'm just glad you're here now. After Thea was born, I finally put my foot down. I was home from the hospital, holding my newborn daughter, watching Spencer set up his video game console in the living room. He was already planning to go to Russell's. I just snapped. Spencer, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. He didn't hear me. Spencer. He pulled his headset off. What? This is your last chance. You go back to work. You find a job. You start being a father. Or I'm packing my things and I am leaving. I am done. I am not raising your children alone anymore. It resulted in a huge fight. He yelled. He punched a wall. But I didn't care anymore. I wasn't the scared 22-year-old girl anymore. I was a mother of 2. And I knew my children deserved better than this. I deserved better. I told him I would never hold anything against him. He was free to walk away. But then, something strange happened. He just stopped. He looked at me, really looked at me. He saw the look in my eyes. The done look. And it must have scared him. His shoulders slumped. You're right, he said. You're right. I've been a jerk. I've been lost. I'll start looking for a job tomorrow. I promise. I'll get better. I was shocked. I expected him to resist, to yell, to turn it back on me. But he just agreed. Or so I thought. The next day, my husband was in the shower. I was taking his dirty clothes from the hamper to do laundry. Graham was playing with his blocks. Thea was asleep in her bassinet. It was quiet. I was exhausted, but for the first time in a long, long time, I felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe this was it. Maybe hitting rock bottom, maybe my ultimatum, had finally woken him up. Maybe we were finally turning a corner. And then I heard it. A ping. From his phone on the nightstand. I glanced over. I wasn't snooping, I promise. It was just right there. A message on his lock screen. From a familiar number. My heart stopped. I stopped breathing. It was Sabrina's number. Why was Sabrina texting him? My eyes widened in shock. The contact name just said, Sabrina. The message preview said, will you be telling her about us? I'm pregnant and can't hold off the news any longer. I was frozen in place. I just kept rereading the message. Pregnant. Us. Pregnant. Us. My best friend. My sister. The woman who held my hand while I cried over my husband's neglect. The woman who stayed with me in the hospital. The woman who was my maid of honor. Pregnant. When my husband got out of the shower, whistling, drying his hair with a towel, he saw me. He saw me standing completely still, his phone in my hand. He rushed to snatch it from me, but it was too late. He saw my face. Audrey. He stammered, his face draining of all color. Audrey, wait. It's just a joke. It's a big misunderstanding. She's joking. I put the laundry basket down, very slowly. I walked towards my husband. And I slapped him. I slapped him as hard as I possibly could. The sound of it echoed in the silent room. My handprint, red and angry on his wet skin. I didn't even think twice. It felt like my body was possessed. I was shaking, not from sadness, but from a rage so pure and so hot it scared me. His eyes were wide in shock. I looked him straight in the eyes. You're dead to me, I said. And I turned around. I packed a bag for me. I packed Graham's little dinosaur backpack. I packed Thea's diaper bag. I put the kids in their car seats. And I drove them all to my parents' house. My parents were shocked to see me on their doorstep, a newborn in my arms, a toddler clinging to my leg, and luggage at my feet. Seeing my dad's worried face, I broke down. I collapsed right there in the doorway. And I told them everything. I've been crying continuously for 2 days. I can't believe how my life has ended. I've told my boss everything, and she has graciously allowed me to take a few days off. My best friend of 20 years. My husband of 12 years. And she's pregnant. It's over. My marriage, it's completely over. Spencer and Sabrina have been calling me. Non-stop. Messages. Texts. Voicemails. They're begging me to at least hear them out. But I refuse. I can't. Spencer is begging me not to get a divorce. He's saying I should think about our children. Am I the bad guy if I go on to divorce my cheating husband and take away everything from him? I went back to work after a few days. I had to. I couldn't just lay in bed and die. I had 2 children to think of. No matter what happens in life, I couldn't miss work for too long. Honestly, work felt like a welcome distraction. It was the only place where I wasn't poor, cheated on Audrey. I was just Audrey. The one who was good at her job. My boss was incredible. She gave me a private office so I could cry when I needed to, and she piled on a new project, a big one. It felt good to think about something else. To do something. During this time, the messages kept coming. And the truth, the full, ugly, detailed truth, came out. Sabrina sent me a long, long message. A wall of text that I read with my stomach in knots. She said she didn't mean to, but she had apparently fallen in love with Spencer. She said he was so broken and that he needed her. And now that she was going to be a mother, she had to think about herself, which is why she had been pushing Spencer to tell me. And then she wrote the line. The line that I will never, ever forget. Besides, Audrey, you should be happy. You were always complaining about him. You always wanted to leave him, but you just didn't have the courage to do it. So, I did it for you. I'm taking him off your hands. You're welcome. I had to read that part 3 times. You're welcome. The audacity. The sheer, cold-blooded nerve of it. Maybe this was her plan all along. Who knows? Honestly, I'm glad she decided to take my trash. Now she can live her whole life regretting ever meeting a man like Spencer. Because I knew what he was. Spencer, on the other hand, his messages were just pathetic. He knew he would lose access to an extravagant life if he lost me. He knew he had made a terrible mistake. In his words, he just wanted to sleep with Sabrina, but because she was now pregnant, he had no way out. He begged me to forgive him. He said it was just a meaningless fling that went too far. He even went as far as to tell me that we could probably convince Sabrina to give up her baby and we could raise the baby together. It'll be like it's our own, he texted. It's still my child. We can just adopt it. And she can go away. His delusions. His entitlement. It just fueled my anger. As for how they got together, it turns out, all those days Spencer was at Russell's house, he was often meeting Sabrina. He had been opening up to her for months behind my back. He told her how mentally distressed he was in his marriage with me because I had been forcing him to get a job. He said Sabrina understood him. She listened to his problems. And when he opened up about this to his friend Russell, instead of telling him how wrong this was, Russell encouraged him. He told Spencer to meet up with Sabrina, saying how she was clearly more of a woman than I was. So, they met up one day. Just to talk. And that two-faced woman, my sister, decided to sleep with my husband. And I'm almost positive, that day I went into labor? The day neither of them picked up the phone? They were together. They were together while I was alone, scared, and bringing my daughter into the world. But this isn't even the worst part. This isn't the part that left me speechless. When I first told my parents about Spencer and Sabrina, my dad called Spencer and shouted at him for a good 15 minutes. He was a rock. Even when I was crying, my mother tried to say how I could be wrong about this. Audrey, are you sure? She kept saying. I've known Sabrina her whole life. There is just no way she would betray you like this. You've been under so much stress, maybe you misunderstood the text. Are you sure you're not, depressed again? I couldn't believe it. I called up Sabrina's mother, Barbara. And unlike my mother, Barbara was furious. She didn't question me for a second. She knew I would never make up something like this. She was completely on my side. That tramp, she wept over the phone. My own daughter. After all our families have been through. Audrey, honey, I am so sorry. She cried with me. She understood how betrayed I felt. After talking with my dad, I made the decision. I was filing for divorce. We already had a lawyer in mind, a top-tier guy my dad used for his business contracts. With my prenup and Spencer's cheating, the divorce proceeding was going to be easy. What might be tricky, my lawyer warned, was the custody of my children. But I knew Spencer. He would never want the full-time responsibility of them. So, I was confident I would get full custody. Throughout all this, my mother was vehemently against my decision to get a divorce. She begged. She pleaded. Audrey, you are tearing this family apart, she'd say, cornering me in the kitchen. Think of Graham. Think of Thea. You can't break up their home over one little mistake. A mistake, Mom? I'd scream. He's having a baby with my best friend. That's not a little mistake. People make mistakes, Audrey. Forgiveness is a virtue. When she realized that no matter how much she begged, I wasn't going to listen, she seemed to change her tactics. Suddenly, she started saying how I should give up full custody of my children to Spencer. The first time she said it, I thought she was joking. I thought the stress had made her crazy. We were in the kitchen. I was making a bottle for Thea. You know, Audrey, she said, just casually, folding a dish towel. Maybe it would be better for the kids to be with their father. You're so emotional these days. You're clearly not well. You're not stable. I just stared at her. What did you say? I'm just saying. Spencer, he is their father. He's trying. Maybe he deserves to have full custody. You could visit them. I thought she had lost her mind. But she kept saying it. 4 days. Audrey, you need to think about giving Spencer the kids. Audrey, a judge might not give you custody, you know. Not after that PPD. They might think you're an unfit mother. Her behavior, it started to make me feel extremely suspicious. Why? Why would my own mother ask me to give up my children when she knew Spencer was not a capable parent? I felt a cold dread in the pit of my stomach. I knew I needed to sit down and confront her. In front of my dad. I had to find out exactly what she had in mind. My lawyer served the divorce papers to Spencer. He called me, crying like a man-child, begging me to forgive him. I just laughed. I laughed at his misery and told him to get ready to lose everything. Graham and Thea are doing well. Spencer never spent much time with them, so they hardly notice that he's missing. People in our town, they found out. The news of my divorce due to Sabrina's backstabbing, it spread like wildfire. And everyone was on my side. People started sending foul messages to both Sabrina and Spencer, abusing both of them. This is when Lorraine, my mother-in-law, finally gave me a call. Throughout the last month, she didn't have a single ounce of decency to call me for comfort or to apologize. I'm sure she was just ashamed that her picture-perfect son had messed up his great life and knocked up another girl. She called to tell me how Spencer was suffering so much. How everyone in his family had found out and was upset with him. I just kept quiet as she unabashedly continued to say how, as a good daughter-in-law, I should return to him and retract the divorce proceedings. She tried to justify her son's vile actions. Men can sometimes stray from the path, Audrey. It's our responsibility as women to bring them back. I couldn't hear her nonsense any longer. Shut up, I said. There was silence on the other end. What did you say to me? I said, shut up, I repeated, my voice rising. I had always been respectful to her. Always been the polite, timid daughter-in-law. But not anymore. You should be ashamed, I said, my voice shaking with rage. You should be ashamed of giving birth to a worthless man like Spencer, who is nothing but a leech. And if you ever call me again, I will make sure to take every single penny of his during our divorce by bleeding him dry. I was the one who took care of your man-child for 12 years. You have no right to ask me for anything. Not now that he has knocked up my best friend. She tried to apologize, a last-ditch effort to protect her son. Audrey, please, I just meant. But I warned her that I would take legal action against her if she ever called again. And I hung up. It felt good. To finally stand up to her. I was not the same timid daughter-in-law she had met. Spencer was going to get exactly what was coming to him. That night, I sat down to talk with my parents about my mother's suspicious behavior. I had already given my dad a heads up about how she'd been forcing me to give up full custody. So, he was ready. We were in the living room. The TV was off. It was just the three of us. I looked my mother straight in the eye. Mom, I need to know the truth. Why have you been asking me to give Spencer full custody of my children? My mother hesitated. She looked at my dad. Robert, tell her. She's being hysterical. This divorce is making her crazy. My dad just stared at her. His voice was calm, and that was more terrifying than any yelling. Answer the question, Diane. Why are you trying to take your daughter's children away from her? My dad kept grilling her. And finally, she opened up. To our shock, my mother told me that after I had revealed the affair, she had decided to confront Sabrina about it. She didn't believe me, so she went to see Sabrina herself. They met up at a coffee shop. And Sabrina started begging her for forgiveness. But then, Sabrina started to tell her how she was pregnant and how she needed Spencer to raise her child. My mother, instead of shouting at her, instead of defending me, her daughter, apparently, felt sorry for her. She promised to help Sabrina out financially. She tried to convince her not to break up my and Spencer's marriage, saying how Spencer could continue to support her child even if he was married to me. Sabrina didn't want that. So then, my mother changed her tactics. She started telling Sabrina that if she was responsible for breaking up our marriage, then she should be responsible for raising all of the kids as well. Sabrina was shocked at first. But my mother, my own mother, told Sabrina that I suffered from PPD. That I was not a capable mother. She told Sabrina that the least she could do was raise Spencer's children all together, as a family, since they would all be siblings anyway. She told her that I was mentally sick and that my children needed a healthy parent like Spencer more than me. And then she went in for the kill. My mother convinced Sabrina by saying that if I gave up full custody of my children, then I would be required to pay hefty child support. And Sabrina could use that child support money to take care of her child as well. This is what convinced Sabrina. This is why my mother had changed her tune. This is why she had been forcing me to give up custody of James and Thea. She had made a deal with my best friend to take my children, to give my children to the woman who destroyed my life, and to make me pay for it. When my dad and I finally grilled this information out of her, we were disgusted. I couldn't breathe. I was facing another betrayal. My own mother. My own mother thought that because of my PPD, I was incapable of raising my own children. And she would rather have Sabrina, the woman who slept with my husband, raise them, than me. It shocked me. She failed to see how I fell into PPD in the first place, because Spencer refused to help me. Because she refused to support me. I started to cry. Just silent, hot tears. I didn't know how she could do this. After everything. My dad, who had been quiet for a long time, finally spoke. His voice was quiet, which was terrifying. He looked at my mother. Diane. Get your things. Get out of the house. My mother started crying. Robert, no. I was just trying to help. I thought. Get out, my dad said. I don't want to see your face anymore. Our marriage is over. If you are still listening, please help me by liking this video and commenting with the number 1 down below. Just so I know that you're out there. So I know that you're wonderful, and I understand that you're walking with me through this. Your support, it's a huge encouragement. It's cheering me on. Please, just comment with the number 1 so I can see you, and now, please, just listen to the rest of my story. I don't remember much after that. I just remember my mother leaving, wailing. I existed. I went numb. I remember my dad making me toast, and I couldn't eat it. I'd sit on the floor of the nursery, just holding Thea, for hours. Rocking back and forth. The house was so quiet. My dad was handling everything. He was like a ghost, just taking care of things. Taking care of Graham. Making bottles. I was a ghost. How do you process that? Your husband, okay. You can understand infidelity. It's horrible, but it happens. Your best friend, okay. A terrible, soul-crushing betrayal. But it happens. But your mother? The one who was supposed to protect you. The one who was supposed to love you unconditionally. How do you come back from that? I felt completely alone. Graham would bring me his toy dinosaur. He was just a toddler, but he knew. Kids always know. He'd just pat my arm. Sad, Mommy? And I'd just nod, because I didn't have the words. It feels like I can't trust anyone anymore. Everyone seems to betray me. Like I mean nothing to them. It's been 6 months since that day. And I know it's been a long time. First things first. I got my divorce last month. My dad has been my backbone through this entire thing. He kept me pushing. He got me into therapy. He made sure I ate. He made sure I got up. He said, Audrey, we are going to see this through. We are going to get you free. We went ahead with the divorce proceedings. We were in the courtroom. It was intense. Spencer was there, looking pale and thin. He'd lost weight. He looked pathetic. Lorraine was in the back row, glaring at me. Sabrina, I was told, was not there. I guess she was too pregnant or too ashamed to show her face. My lawyer, she was a shark. She was incredible. As expected, Spencer got nothing out of me, thanks to my prenup. When it came time for the custody of my children, he fought. Oh, he fought hard. His lawyer tried to argue for full custody at first. When that was laughed at, he tried to go for equal custody. His lawyer tried to paint me as an unstable mother. They brought up my PPD. They tried to say I was erratic. But my lawyer was ready. She argued how Spencer had been a deadbeat father our entire marriage. How he didn't have a proper job. How his own mother was a known alcoholic. And how he had not only cheated on me but had gotten another woman pregnant. She had PI photos of him at Russell's apartment, drinking beer at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, instead of looking for a job. She had his bank statements, showing no income, and receipts for video games. She had everything. I'll never forget the judge's words. He looked at Spencer with such disdain. Full custody is awarded to the mother, Ms. Audrey. Mr. Spencer will pay monthly child support checks. Given the prenuptial agreement, Mr. Spencer will receive no spousal support or assets from this marriage. He will have supervised visitation, twice a month, at a facility of the court's choosing. Next case. Nothing. Nothing made me feel more satisfied than watching his face just droop. In sadness. In defeat. I looked back to see Lorraine. She was looking at me with pure, unfiltered anger. And I gave her a smirk. Just a small, slow one. Just like I had promised. I got what I had wished for. I won. Secondly, regarding my mother. She has begged. And begged. She has begged me and my dad for forgiveness. My dad, he has firmly refused to let what she did go so easily. He has asked her to go to therapy. He told her she needs to talk to someone about her internalized misogyny, so she can understand exactly how wrong she was to have treated me this way when I was so vulnerable. I know my parents love each other. It breaks my heart to see them apart. But I understand why my dad wants her to talk to a therapist. My mother, to her credit, has been religiously going to therapy. She continues to stay with her sister. I don't know if it will help her in any way. But I hope she does change. Although I have blocked Sabrina, I am still in contact with her mother, Barbara. Barbara, just as she had promised me, has cut off all contact with her daughter. She informed me last week, on the phone. She told me how Sabrina has been removed from her will. From her inheritance. And they have added me instead. Barbara told me, Audrey, honey, my lawyer finalized it. My inheritance is going to you, and to Graham and Thea. You are the daughter I always wanted. You and those children are my family now. It seems comical, almost. To see how karma is slowly, but surely, catching up to Sabrina. I've also heard through the grapevine. Spencer doesn't want to marry Sabrina. And he wants nothing to do with the child. Just like I had always known. Lorraine is furious with Spencer, since she has already lost 2 grandchildren, Graham and Thea, because of him. But he remains adamant. So, Sabrina, she got her prize. A man who doesn't love her, a baby he doesn't want, and a mother-in-law who probably hates her as much as she hated me. She's trapped. And I'm free. As for me, I'm doing a lot better since my divorce. I am focused solely on my children for now. I don't want to keep holding on to the past. I won't say that this journey has been easy. It's been the hardest thing I've ever done. But I will say that I don't regret anything that I have done. I'm glad I loved Spencer. I'm glad I married him. Because otherwise, I would not have these 2 beautiful, amazing, perfect children. And, in a strange, twisted way, I'm glad he cheated on me. Because this was the final push. This was the final push that I needed to break away from him. Otherwise, I might have still been stuck in that loveless marriage, being a single mother to 3 people. I guess everything really does happen for a reason. And I believe in God's plan. Thank you. Thank you all so much for listening to my story. It means more than you know, just to be able to say it all out loud. If you've been through anything like this, or if any part of this touched you, please, I would love to hear from you in the comments. I promise, I read them all. And if you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe. It really does help. I'll see you next time.